Hi, I'm Kevin, the contractor CFO. Welcome to today's video. We're covering contracting business help, specifically some key paperwork that you need to keep track of in your business. But first, a little bit about me, just so you know why you should listen to me in the first place. Who I am, a contractor, CFO, and COO. All that means is I help you make more money in your business, more money than what I would charge to work with you. So basically, think of me as a force multiplier. We're going to get working together and we're going to figure out how you can increase your profitability or your top line revenue or your net income, whatever. Basically, I want to put more cash in your pocket. Primarily, though, I don't want to overcomplicate this. We do small business tax and accounting. Every small business needs somebody to handle the accounting work and file the tax returns with the IRS and keep them out of trouble. So I am an enrolled agent. I can represent taxpayers before the IRS. It's kind of like CPA, but I took a different test. And I really got into this at first to help small businesses lower their taxes. I saw a lot of I saw a lot of business owners, a lot of contractors. I was looking through their financials and realizing that their CPA or their tax guy or whatever just wasn't doing a lot of proactive tax planning to make sure they could save them everything. They were just doing the tax return every year the same way, even if circumstances had changed. And so there's a lot of money being left on the table there. So proactive tax planning is something I do. Also, I'm a former insurance premium auditor, meaning I used to handle all, show up at a business and ask for all this paperwork, certificates of insurance, payroll reports, having to classify employees to the workers' comp codes, all that crap. And so I know a lot of inside knowledge on that. So I like helping businesses make sure they're tracking all the right paperwork, which is kind of leads us into today's video here, contracting business help, some key paperwork that you need. So this falls under the expense category in a lot of my videos, or I just have this general framework that most business owners should spend most of their time focused on growing revenue. They should focus on the revenue category because if you have enough revenue coming in, it kind of can cover over a lot of other mistakes you're making on the expense side. So this is the key paperwork though is focusing on a particular expense category in your business. So generally, it's less important than generating more revenue. But sometimes the expense you're mitigating could end your business entirely, like a lawsuit. So that's what I want to focus on in today's video. It's going to be specifically paperwork you need for your subcontractors. You're going to need this paperwork for tax purposes. You're going to need it for, yeah. So, anyways, let me just focus back in here. So this is important, but don't let it entirely derail you. All right. So the paperwork is important, but go out and sell some jobs first and then come back and worry about the paperwork. So for subcontractors, you need a couple different pieces of paper from them. First is the contract. That kind of falls under like a legal and accounting framework. So I like to break the business side of things down into four main frameworks. One of them is the legal side, like the legal entity, contracts, business law, like all that kind of crap. All right. So basically, it usually comes down to setting up an LLC or a corporation or partnership, like all those kind of different things and the paperwork involved in that. And then, so there's legal, then there's accounting, like you need somebody to take care of the numbers side of the financial side of things, so you can get good information to make good decisions in your business. It's not just about filling out the tax return. You really should be able to look at your numbers, and that should inform you on what next decision you need to make in your business. And then there's the tax side of things. Unfortunately, it's a huge expense in businesses, so you do need to spend a good amount of time understanding some basic tax frameworks and how to mitigate those and how to use those to your advantage. And then there's insurance, because that's another huge component of contracting is the insurance expense can be one of the top expenses in your business. So there's legal, accounting, tax, insurance. Those are kind of the four main areas that I help businesses in. I'm not an attorney, but I know enough about the legal stuff to let people know a little bit about what you need to think about there. So the W-9, so we have the contract, which kind of covers legal and accounting issues. You have a W-9, which covers the tax issues, because you're probably going to have to issue a 1099 to the contractor. Then there's the certificate of insurance, which is obviously the insurance side of things. So these pieces of paperwork hit all four main areas of the business. And then, yeah, like after you have a contractor, a subcontractor going in and everything, there's ongoing invoices and payments that you have going on, and all that just falls under accounting. That's just kind of financial history, basically. But the key is that you must collect all of these before paying. All right, that's key. You must collect all this paperwork before you pay the subcontractor. Otherwise, you've paid the subcontractor, maybe they weren't that great at all, or they just drop off the face of the earth. Like you never hear from them again. And then next thing you know, a couple months later, your CPA, it's January, and your CPA is like, hey, do you have anybody you need to get 1099s out to? And you realize, oh, yeah, I did pay the sub a couple thousand, and you've got like no information on them. So then you're freaking out about, am I in trouble? What's the IRS going to do if they find out that I didn't report this guy's 1099, whatever? And then or like the insurance auditor comes around and they need a certificate of insurance because you paid this guy a couple grand, and if you can't cough something up, then basically that guy's going to get treated like an employee on your payroll audit. So you're gonna be paying extra insurance on this guy that maybe you didn't have to. Trying to track down a subcontractor you've already paid and are no longer working for, and they have no interest in working for you ever again. Like, what's in it for them to give you the paperwork that you should have collected before you paid them? All right, so that's your only leverage really, is that final check that you're going to get, or that first check you're going to give them. If they want it, they've got to cough up all the paperwork. Yeah, there can be a lot of verbal agreements, and they show up at the job site, because it's a last minute thing, and your other sub fell through, but you know this guy and he came through for you. Yeah, that's all fantastic, but you need to set the stage that for anybody that works with you, before you can pay them, or just blame it on your accountant. Tell them, hey, my accountant won't pay you unless he has all this paper, or unless she has, or your office manager, whoever. They will not send a check to you or pay you at all unless you have all this paperwork in. And then the expectation is set, so you'll get all the paperwork. And if they don't have all the paperwork, then they can tell you up front, and then you can, if it looks like you're going to have to end up eating their insurance cost basically, then maybe you can renegotiate the rate a little bit so that it's kind of built in. So I just want to show you a couple things here, just kind of what a contract. This is just an example of a subcontractor contract that you might have. This is something I had laying around from some course I had bought like a long time ago. I'm not a contractor. This was for some real estate investing thing, but they had this in there. I do make it available in my free group. The link is in the description below. But so I do have this document in there, but use it at your own risk. Like, I'm not an attorney, I can't provide legal advice. This is just a template that maybe you use, maybe you don't, maybe you already have your own contract. But the key thing I wanted to point out here is that just at the end is Exhibit A, services provided. So I just want to show you that a contract doesn't have to be super complicated. Like in this one, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around on the screen, but on number 2, on the left-hand side, clause number 2, services provided, it says contractor agrees to perform the services listed in this contract as contained in Exhibit A. So you can just have a plain old contract, boilerplate contract that just basically says, see Exhibit A, and then Exhibit A can actually line out, be the part that you actually customize every single time in the contract. So maybe it's a tile guy you're hiring, and you can put in, hey, we need this many square footage of tiles, these rooms, these rooms, these rooms. You provide material and we'll reimburse, or we've already got material, we just need labor. Whatever agreement you guys came up with, that's where you just kind of throw the nuts and bolts in the specifics in that area. So it doesn't have to be overly complicated. That's all I'm trying to say. The next thing is the W-9. This is what a W-9 looks like. I cut off the last little bit of it that's just instructions and stuff. But your subcontractor does need to fill this out, even if you're not required to give them a 1099. And that's because the only reason, or the only way you find out if you need to give them a 1099 or not, is because they filled out the W-9. And if they mark that they're a C corporation, then like that's your proof that you do not have to send them a 1099, or they're an S corp. You don't have to send a 1099. So if the IRS ever comes, if for whatever reason they want to take a look at all your records and see if you issued all your 1099s, which I don't know why, because I've never heard of anybody getting audited for that. But anyways, if they were to do that, your only proof is to have a W-9 on file that says, hey, they told me that they were this type of entity, so I didn't send them a 1099 because it's not required, and you're off the hook. All right, so that's important. The other thing is also having the Social Security or the EIN, and sometimes you have a Social Security number down there and you try to submit it and the IRS rejects it. They're like, dude, this doesn't match up, or the name, they'll say like the name control doesn't, like the name and part of the Social Security number doesn't match. So there's not much you can do about that, but go back and double check with the contractor if that ever happens, and just make sure that you got the right information. Or sometimes the handwriting is just difficult to read. But if you do a good faith effort in that, then you really have nothing to worry about. But again, this just proves that you tried to get all the right information. And if it's still getting rejected or something, if the IRS ever asks about it later, you can say, "This is all I got. I tried. Here's my attempts to get the information." All right. So it's a huge CYA thing. The next thing we got here, here's the certificate of insurance. This is, I don't know if you can see my mouse waving around here, but there's two really important sections that need to be filled out or you need to look at. The first part up here is general liability, and it shows that you should have a policy number there. You should have the insurance company's name in there, and then you should also have the policy effective dates. Those are the most important for most contractors. Some contractors may need to pay attention to the actual like insurance limits, depending on if you're doing a huge development project. There might be really specific things or limits that have to be in there. Sometimes you need to have like have them be as an additional insured, or you need to have yourself as an additional insured on their policy sometimes, or a subrogation way. And anyways, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but you need to make sure that they've got general liability coverage, and then you also need down here, you need to make sure that there's workers' comp coverage as well. And like I was saying, if they don't have workers' comp coverage, there might be a valid reason for that depending on your state, and you may have different paperwork that you need to collect from them. But or maybe you just need to build into to your payment rate to that contractor the fact that they're not insured, and so you have to cover that under your own policy and build in, reduce their rate or whatever to make sure that you're not kind of eating that cost on them because they are a subcontractor. They should be insured, especially if they're licensed. So anyway, but sometimes I know there's issues, or they're just a guy that you picked up because they know how to get something done, and it was like a one-time thing or whatever. So just know that certificate of insurance is important, and there's two spots you need. Sometimes you'll have two separate certificates because maybe they get their liability insurance from one agency and then they get their workers' comp from somewhere else. So sometimes you might actually have two separate certificates of insurance. But if they use the same broker for like all their insurance, then you'll have this whole thing will be filled up and you should be good to go. I actually have a whole course in the free group actually though, where I do go into detail about the differences between workers' comp and general liability, what you should be looking for on the certificate of insurance. For that information, sorry, you're gonna have to go to the free group. Anyways, I hope that helps. For to get more help though, you can join my free group for contractors. Again, the link is in the description below. There's free resources and tools for your business. I'm continually adding additional resources in there. Tools like I know one that I am going to be uploading soon is like a labor burden calculator, like a little spreadsheet you can put together to kind of figure out your overall labor burden. You can chat with other contractors and exchange ideas. Right, as of this moment, the group is still newer. So if you are one of the newer people that go in there and you don't see a lot going back and forth, then just start a conversation. I know there's already a couple contractors in there, so you could just start something, or you actually have the ability to direct message them if you have a specific question or want to get to know them better. So you can do that. Again, I talked about there's free courses on tax, accounting, insurance, and legal issues. So if you have questions on any of those issues, you can always kind of peruse some of those videos and get see if that answers any of your questions. All right, link in the description below and get back to work.